Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks so much for tuning into this week's episode of Mark's Mouthpiece. My guest today is Tine Thing Helseth. I'm very honored to have you here, one of my favorite trumpet players ever. And
Very happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. Tina, I wanted to kind of go through some things chronologically, and I know some of these things are some things you've answered before, but for people, especially in the States where a lot of people watch this, could you talk about your beginnings and how your mother introduced you to the trumpet?
I come from a very musical family. But I'm the first professional musician, in the family. But we have a very, very strong wind band and brass band tradition in Norway. So that was where my parents played as a hobby. So basically, I grew up in the band, and my mom, she played the trumpet. Well, the story goes that actually, I got born a month early because my mom, she didn't play the trumpet then at the very end, but she played the big drum in a rehearsal, and the next day I was born. A month too early. So it's a funny little thing there. And then I think I was part of the, they were taking me to the rehearsals for when I was like a couple of months old, just sleeping. So I kind of grew up on good wind band music, everything from good marches to classical tunes to pop and rock and, whatnot. So it was the most natural thing in the world for me to start playing the trumpet. So I did a bit before I could start in the school band, but and then it just happened.
Do you have any memories of how your mother started you, like what that first time was like at all? Because I know you were 6 when you started. Am I right about that?
Yes, and it was not with my mom. No. That was way too close. I wouldn't listen to her. No. But she, of course, I have photos of myself from a very much younger age, a couple of years and so on, just playing around with the cornet and everything. But no, when I started to play for real, then my mom had a good friend, Heidi Johansen. She still works in the opera orchestra here in Oslo, and she was great with kids. So I just started with her, and she's a wonderful teacher, especially for me as a little kid. And of course, my mom would say exactly the same, but I would never listen.
Yeah.
It's a good distance, I think. Yeah.
And before I start talking about your studies with her, I mean, just could you talk a little more about the wind band tradition? I think in the States, a lot of times people will say, "Oh, I used to play an instrument," and I have a feeling in Norway it's more like, "Oh, I do play an instrument," with a lot of people.
Yeah, well, it's both. But the special thing I think here is that, first of all, when I say like school band, if you start on the kind of beginning, the school band is not part of school, so it's not like normally it's not in school hours, so it's after school, and it's also driven, like it's not funded by the school in any way. It's like with the parents, and it's but I mean, most of the bands have and should have professional, conductor and teachers and stuff for the various instruments. But it's like it's pastime activity that has nothing to do with school, but the band has the name of the school. So you do things like play on different events in school. When we have our national day, 17th of May, we do parades and stuff, and then the band always kind of they kind of represent the school when they go in the parade and so on. But it's very different than as far as I've understood when I've been around in the States. So that's on one hand. And then what happens then is that a lot of them, so we have the school bands, but then we have the youth bands.
Mhm.
So this is wind or brass.
Right.
And then we have the adult bands where you can like play from when you're 13 to 100 and whatever.
Yeah.
you're allowed to be part of in different, in different levels and different mantras and different ambitions, and and so that's one of the things that I think is the most it's very special, I think, when I see those adult bands with some members there, playing there for like 50 years every Monday, so just because he or she wants to, and not should not it's not a work, it's just, they don't have to, but they just want to because they think it's nice to play together and be together with it. It's like, yeah, it's so in that sense, maybe that's different, that it's actually a lot of, the amateur movement is quite big, that they do continue to play. But I also feel like a lot of people say like, oh yeah, I used to play in the school band, but then it's like, I used to play, and then maybe they didn't play for a long time, they got kids, and the everyday life caught up with you, and you didn't have that. But then when you turn, like, when the kids get older and you're like 50, then you take the trumpet and start playing again.
Yeah.
So yeah, you see a lot of that as well. But then also it's a lot of amazing players in the, like, the top level brass and wind bands, especially some of the brass bands. They're so good, and they just do this on the side. So some of them are very ambitious, but I like that you have all the the full spectrum, or like coffee drinking bands and like championship bands. Yeah.
What were the things that you remember about your first studies with Heidi? Do you remember how she started you, or what kind of things she had you working on?
Well, I think, she had a very natural approach.
Mm-hmm.
I think also that I had a natural approach to playing as well. So we didn't have to work a lot on like the general mouths, embouchure and stuff like that. As far as I know, anyway, when I've seen photos, I don't think like not any huge things, just like
Right.
I was 6 years old or 7, so it's not, teeth and they fall out and they grow out and all of these things. But no, and she focused very much on, and this I remember quite strongly. She focused very much on phrasing from the very beginning, musicality, playing a simple melody or simple etude or something in like different styles, like a angry elephant or happy mouse or sad mouse or sad elephant, or like these different things, like making my imagination start very early, which I think spoke to me very well. And yeah, I don't know, she and then my other teacher, they later they are the two teachers I've had, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The other teacher, Arnold Nielsen, with the Oslo,
Yeah.
right? So how long did you study with each one of these teachers?
So Heidi, I had her from until I was 14, and then she kind of passed me on to Arnold because he used to be her professor. So it was kind of just like now you move on to him. Yeah, then he, he's, I don't know how long, just until at some point I stopped having lessons, and for a while, when my career really started, but for a while we had a like, I would play repertoire for him, and like, okay, I have someone to talk to, someone to kind of just listen to this, how does this sound, how does this work. But now it's more, he's retired now from the orchestra, but he's such a great, he's like, my second dad. I would not be me if it wasn't for him. So now we just, we meet up with his wife also used to play the violin in the Oslo Phil, and then with my husband we go, for dinner and just chat about life.
Is there any kind of philosophy that their teaching kind of went around, like Stamp or Chikowitz, or any of those kind of ideas? Were those concepts that were brought to you or that you use?
I think it was a bit of everything. I think Arne did go to the US and study with both Schikowitz and Helseth.
Mhm.
So yeah, so I had the red book. I've been told it's also in blue. I don't know. I had the red one, but now I have the ones that you did. So now I have the printed one. But I had the, you know, like the old one before that, before you did it with his son. But no, but it's so yeah. So Schikowitz, stamp, but stamp was more like, I don't remember being like necessarily do this, but it was the normal stuff, you know, like Arbon and Clark and Stamp and a lot of different things.
Yeah.
Things I don't even remember, kind of, you know, like do this, what's it called, legato or flexibility things, or you know, like it was very much based on, and a lot of etudes.
A lot of etudes. So,
Yes,
so,
all the time.
so what is your daily practice like now? If it was a normal day where you're not traveling?
Well, now it differs a lot, actually. So basically, now I have some time off
Mhm.
from performing before it's getting crazy at the end of the month.
Yeah.
So now I'm just, you know, enjoying life and practice a bit, you know, preparing, starting to prepare the repertoire
Yeah.
that I'm going to play this autumn, you know, until Christmas, and so on. So, but I mean, if so, it's actually, I get this question a lot,
Yeah.
but it's actually really hard to answer. What is the same always is that I warm up.
Yeah.
And then, and
Is it this? You do kind of change things around quite a bit.
well, my husband would tell you that it is exactly the same, and that it is the same. So basically, my husband is also a trumpet player.
Right. Right.
And we used to compete when we were younger. Yeah, we have photos of us and stuff. And I got first, he got second, just so that's, you know. No, but so we have this, so we did this prize winner concert together with actually the band that he works in now. We have 5 amazing professional army bands, military bands here, that are kind of like that. You can actually, you know, about the whole wind band, the tradition of like amateur tradition. It's actually because of that a bit that we have. So the kind of, because of the army bands, that they kind of inspired and you know, were teachers and conductors and everything. Then, you know, in the beginning, many years ago, well, they still are, a lot of them, of course, but you know, like they made the kind of movement a bit, and then because of the movement, the level of wind players that are being educated here is very high. So then the level of the players in the bands are very high. So it's like a win-win, you know, like yeah. Anyway, yeah. So we then performed with the band here in Oslo that he works in now, as soloists, and we had kind of talked and met, but he remembered very well that because everyone kind of knew who I was already then when I was 15, 14, in the business, not the business, but you know, in that
World,
life.
Yes.
So he knew, and then he was warming up on the room next to me, and he was listening, you know, to what I was doing. And then when we got together 5 years ago now or something, and then I had my warm up at home, and he was like, I remember these. And now I'm 34, and then I was 15, so it's been a while.
Yeah.
No, but so I have kind of the same.
Yeah. Sure.
I've had then for a long time.
Yeah.
But I can, you know, switch. It can take 10 minutes, and it can be 45 minutes, and it can. But I mean, the elements are the same. Start with the mouthpiece.
Mhm.
Always the mouthpiece first. I love playing on the mouthpiece.
Mhm.
And then I can just walk around and I play. You know, it's a bit of a. It's nice. You can look at other stuff. I can look at a magazine, or like just like getting the they started, and then I started on a G1. Is that what you call it? That's what we call it, normal G.
Yeah.
And I go up, down, and up, and I kind of build from there.
Yeah.
And a bit of stamp and a bit of flexibility, a bit of I go all the way down to like a pedal C.
Yeah.
And then I go up to so it's just try to, it's like, getting warm in the muscles, feeling your air, everything is happening.
You make sure that you practice on. Can you talk about the instruments you use throughout the day? Do you mostly warm up on B flat, or when do you switch to
Always B flat.
Yeah.
Well, there are a couple of times I'm warmed up on my C trumpet, because if I go somewhere for a concert, and sometimes it's nice to just have my single bag and not having to do the full thing. So then, of course, I can warm up on the C trumpet. But so I feel, for me, sometimes it feels like when I play C, which is what I do most, and I love, it feels a bit more like the trumpet is playing by itself. It makes no sense, but it makes a little bit of sense. Like, it's just because it's with the B flat, it's just what I'm used to. Like, that's when I feel like I'm really working. It's not that my trumpet is not playing all by itself. So it's not that, but it's just to feel the grounded feeling. It needs to be the B flat, the same B flat I've had since I was 10 years old. Yeah. So and then I play, and I switch to C trumpet at some point. Either I go straight on some repertoire I need to play, or maybe I do some exercises different. I switch it up, but I still play a lot of etudes.
I was going to ask, what etudes find it to your music stand the most?
Well, actually, the Shikovitz book is always there, and some of the Visuti stuff, and of course, some Chalier and also some of the more kind of very easier things. I have this. So ever since I was a kid, I've loved to sight read. Like Prima Vista, I loved it, just like woo, and trying to play. That I think was maybe also Heidi, that she encouraged to do that. Try to make music at once, just seeing how it looks, and then immediately, of course, the right notes and rhythms. But even more important, just do phrasing and stuff. Yeah. At the very first time you do it, make it sound interesting. So I still kind of do that. Just play some, I don't know, what's the name? Some kind of Getchel stuff, like it's pretty, some of them very easy, but not, I mean, it's like, I think everything has its, I mean, I just love, it's very important, I think, when you practice, that not everything can be very difficult. Yeah. Basically. Yeah. You
have something you can be successful on all the time.
Yeah, just some, you have different how do you say, different things have different what's the English word, different not meaning, but different reasons, kind of, or different so when I do those more easy etudes, it's just because I want to play, just I love playing. Yeah. And then I haven't done this before, and then I just do that. Yeah.
How much time do you think you put in on an average day? I'm sure that fluctuates quite a bit, but
it does.
Yeah.
Well,
maybe talk about a day like when you don't have a concert versus when you do have a concert. How does that change?
Well, it depends what I'm playing a little bit. But I try to, I mean, and it does vary. I don't practice as much as maybe people think I do. Practice is very, very individual. I do think that when I studied, I was quite organized. And well, I mean, basically, I started traveling when I was 18, and then I still studied, of course. So I think the only way for me also to survive in this soloist grown-up game when I was 18 was to be organized. Yeah. To kind of like feel like I was on top of things, and knowing my stuff and feeling as comfortable as possible when I didn't have the same experiences I have now with performance and stuff and repertoire. So yeah, so no, then I was very organized. Now I'm a little bit more all over the place. But I think that's okay because I was very organized at some point. So I tell this to the students that it's like, so just because maybe I am now a bit all over the place does not mean that you should right now, because when I was at your place, then I had like this and this, I wanted to do that, Clark, whatever, in all the keys in that tempo, and you know, I had those very structured and organized goals.
Yes.
And with repertoire, I loved repertoire. I kind of, in Norwegian we say that I ate repertoire. Like it's just like ordering new things. This was, you know, it was not, the internet was still young, you know. I feel so old. There was no IMSLP going on, so I had to order, and it came in the mail.
Yes.
Snail mail, and so then I was organized, and then I practiced more than I practice now. And that's also because I sometimes I do like, so basically now I around 3 hours, sometimes 2, sometimes a bit more than 3. Very like just me, very rarely more than 3 hours. If I have rehearsals with others, then it can be much longer, of course, but that's a very different things. So I think 2-3 hours a day. Because I do think it is actually very important to just listen to your body, because so many people practice way too much, and it makes much more damage than it builds. So it's just to find the right balance, because you shouldn't practice too little either. So it's just to find that right balance, so that you feel like you could be in good shape and play whatever you want for as long as you want, up to a certain point, of course. But to find the right amount and time and how to practice so that you feel comfortable with that. A very long answer. Sorry.
Okay, no, I was talking about the organization. When you were a student, were you one of these people that wrote down your practice and scheduled everything out and kind of like that, or is that something you still do?
A little bit.
A little bit.
Yeah. I was quite organized as a person as well, or as a, like in my other what is that, high school? Like in high school, like when I had normal school as well. I was very organized. I was very I wanted to have really good grades. I was not happy if I didn't get the best grade I could have. Like I was very ambitious. No idea why I bothered now. But I guess it's a part of who I am. So I'm not that ambitious anymore. And anything else than playing. But I was very organized and structured, and that was kind of how I wanted my life to be.
Yeah. How was can you talk a little bit about how you knew when you were going to be a soloist? I mean, were there, and actually before I really asked that question, were there people that you listened to growing up that really kind of made you want to go that way? Were there recordings as a kid?
Yeah, we had, of course, recordings at home. The Maurice Andre, of course, and everything. And then, then my parents knew Ole Edvard Antonsen quite well. So of course I knew that, and they played together with him. And his father also conducted this band that they were a part of. And I got to play solo with them when I was 10, so I knew very well who he was, and of course then from a very early age, and met him and played for him a couple of times, and so I knew that was a thing. So for me it feels like this is what I've always wanted to do.
Right.
It's always been that.
And I also wanted to ask too, because and we'll talk about your career starting a little bit too, but there's so much singing in your playing. I mean, you're such a lyrical trumpet player. Are there singers or other instruments that stuck out to you that maybe you remember? I should listen to this. You can't stop.
Absolutely. I mean, the thing is that yes, I was very inspired by different trumpet players, but I listened to everything else than trumpet actually, much more. Yeah. So it's a mix. It's not that I didn't want to listen to trumpet. There was just so many great players that I admired
Yeah,
that didn't play the trumpet.
right.
Yeah, many singers, and I like to, we have like Renee Fleming and the very great ones.
Yeah,
And just trying to listen to the way that they sound and then recognize them. So a lot of them, I have no problem if I hear on the radio, oh, that's her, that's him, and it's very cool. Well, I like to think I have no problem, and mostly it's been right. Yeah. So I I won't like yeah, how do you say, I won't put my money and this new apartment on it. But yeah, it's I think I just wanted to listen for different sounds. It was the same with violinists and stuff. I had like 10 different recordings of, I don't know, Beethoven violin concerto or whatever with different violinists on my iPod
yeah.
that I listened to and wanted to hear the difference in the sound,
Mhm.
the characters and from that player, that person, and same with pianists. And so yeah, little trumpets, a lot of everything else.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Um, Talk a little bit about the things that started your career as a soloist. I mean, I know you did a lot of competitions, the Charlier competition, the Eurovision Young Musicians competition. There's a number of things. Can you talk about how those kind of helped your career along and got things started?
I mean, competitions are uh, it's kind of like this ambivalent thing,
Mhm.
because it's a great thing to have as a goal, to have something to work towards, the repertoire need to learn, the kind of, having this kind of, okay, I'm gonna try to do my best
Mhm.
here and there. And also for me, I mean, the Eurovision, so basically that's when it started. After that,
Yeah.
then just the same month I was signed by management and record label and everything. Just so that's like very much a very important competition for me then.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, and because a lot of important people saw me there and thought that I was worth kind of going, like helping and just wanting to,
Yeah.
thought that I had something special. And but I think um, the only thing that is very important to remember when you go to competitions is that you really have to focus on what you think of your own performance, and maybe also, when you listen to others, you can be inspired and stuff like that. And do remember that the jury, and I've been in the jury a couple of times. First of all, it's very hard to be in the jury.
Mhm.
I find it very, like, because I know it's so important. Like it's such a, it's like, yeah, it's and at the end of the day, um it's like, when you come to a certain level, if the technical aspects are quite the same, then it's a matter of taste as well.
Right.
Some like that, some like that. And then, so it doesn't mean that just because maybe you didn't get a prize, or maybe you didn't, it does not mean that your future is not bright. Like, it doesn't mean that yeah, it's just very important to remember
Yeah.
that music is, that's the huge difference from sports and stuff, that we have this athletic thing
Right.
with the technique and the things we need to know and need to be able to do.
Yeah.
But it should just be there, and then it doesn't matter anymore, and it's all about you as a musician and your voice and your ability to speak to people and to share, and then not everyone's gonna love you, kind of. So it's a bit like that.
Yeah.
You have to. It's art. It's you know,
Yeah.
it's taste. So that's the only thing with competitions. But I do think as long as you remember that,
Yeah.
you use it as a possibility of preparing something, of meeting other players, and you know, then it's a wonderful thing.
Yeah. I'm sure you were so shy you probably didn't talk to too many people when you were at the competitions, right?
Yeah, no, I was quite shy. Yes.
Were you?
No, but yeah, but because that's the thing. So, so I was this strange mix of shy, but not at all in my playing.
Yeah.
But maybe like I didn't want to be like, you know, this is me. I'm such a great player. No, I was maybe a little bit more in the back.
Right.
But then in my playing,
Yes.
I hopefully then I was very, you know, felt like I had something to say.
And
Yeah.
is it because of these competitions is that where EMI picked you up?
Yeah, well, that was like after. So after the Eurovision, then I got signed on a Norwegian label where I did 2 recordings, the Haydn and the Homo, the first one, and then the Christmas album, and then I signed with EMI.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I love so many of your recordings. I think the things that are so great about your recordings is it doesn't feel like you have some recordings that have a lot of standard repertoire, but they're mixed with some new things. Everything you put out feels like a real mix of like, well, if I'm going to get Hindemith, I'm also going to get a bunch of Norwegian songs with it too. And after you've heard enough Hindemiths, you're probably going to listen to the Norwegian songs maybe a little bit more.
Absolutely. Yeah, well, thank you. I think it's important.
Yeah.
When I put together a program, that's also any program, recital programs especially, of course, it needs to be a program that I would listen to myself.
Right. Right. Yeah, it doesn't. Yeah, your recordings don't feel like you're trying to prove a point with any of them. It feels like you're just playing the
That's
music.
good. Yeah, you know, it's all about. That's what I just like to play music. Basically, sounds very cliche, but yeah, that's it. Yeah.
It's the same as in sports saying we'll take it one game at a time, right? That's the same thing. But yeah, that's the truth though. So talk a little bit about your programming, especially the latest album that you did. It's a real mix of Baroque music with things that are completely not Baroque music. The Tina album that you did that had so many different things. Could you talk a little bit about how you pick the program? I know it's things that you would want to listen to, but sometimes they're from very different elements.
Absolutely, yeah. So the last one was the latest one was the one with organ. So Magical Memories was the title. We tried to come up with the title because basically what we did first was that, okay, let's just record an album. And we have a lot of time because it's Corona. So let's do it now.
Yeah.
And I asked so Kåre Nordstoga, the main organist at the main cathedral here in Oslo. Amazing guy, amazing musician, fun, and just great guy. So we have 3 days. Let's just do in the best possible way. Let's just do an album with great tunes that people want to listen to for trumpet and organ. You know, some hits and some other maybe, you know, not that well known, especially not outside of Norway, but you know, let's just include music that I like basically. And then we found out, or me and with the record label, we found out that some kind of when we were looking for a title, the kind of thing about most of the pieces were that they were pieces that I had some kind of connection to, some kind of memory to, from when I was a kid, where my mom played, or other things, or a lot of the music are performed in like weddings and funerals and, you know, like important days in people's lives.
Yeah.
So maybe people use the music in occasions where they get good memories. You know, like it's kind of like this thought.
No,
Yeah, so it's, you know, it's absolutely a mix
yeah, yeah,
of some traditional Baroque hits,
yeah.
you know, like Te Deum and Trumpet Voluntary and Trumpet Tune and, you know, those things, some Baroque stuff. And then it's a lot of, some Norwegian folk tunes
Mhm.
and some traditional Norwegian wedding marches that I really wanted to include because I think they're just so beautiful.
Right.
Yeah, and then some Grieg and some, it was basically just lots of nice tunes that I wanted to play.
There was some of the wedding music, and it made me think, did you have trumpet at your wedding?
Well, of course we did. The thing is that, so basically we had an outdoor ceremony.
Right.
And so, yeah, so there was a lot of musicians in this wedding. So we used all our,
Your friends.
yes, all our friends. No, they wanted to, but still, you know. So so this guitarist that I work with all the time, that's kind of like my Jarle Storeløkken. He arranges everything for tenting. He's like, you know, one of the most important men in my professional career, and he's also together with my best friend, so they're like my extended family as well. So he played, you know, and then Sebastian and myself, our sisters, played, and we had some singers singing, some opera, some pop music, and then at the end we had told Jarle that he should write something, whatever he wanted in the end, because basically, so of course tenting was there, everyone, and then Sebastian, he also plays in a 10-piece ensemble called Brasskompaniet, so the brass company, kind of. Yeah. And they were there too, but then of course, so me and Elin, my maid of honor, and Sebastian, we were not there, so it was basically 22 10-piece ensembles minus 3 trumpets playing. Yes. At the end, like up from the, like, this balcony thing, and it was amazing. He had done this kind of put together, it was a bit of Star Wars, a bit of Tchaikovsky, a bit of some traditional Norwegian music, and then it ended with Chicago for my inspiration.
Oh, very
amazing. So it was a lot of brass, definitely a lot of brass at our wedding. Yeah,
that would be the case.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm off my questions a little bit, but it reminded me too of the video that you and your husband did for the May 17th.
Yes.
holiday.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of time during the pandemic to come up with.
Oh yes, there was. We had the different, you know, clothing, and it was, yeah, it was really, we worked hard on that one.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're very proud of it, actually.
No, it was terrific. It probably made people want to visit Norway after watching it.
I hope so.
Yeah, but all the recordings that you have, they're just so different, and it's so nice to hear something different, and the transcriptions of the vocal pieces especially are just outstanding. I wanted to ask you about a few concerts that you did, which are probably a little bit more profound. If any memories you have of them, the Nobel Peace Prize concert in 2007, I think that's one that a lot of people saw. Can you talk about the circumstances and who was there, and any memory you have of that?
Absolutely. It was the most crazy experience, because basically they asked me like some weeks before. It was very like happening suddenly. I released my debut album in like November, beginning of November, I think. This 2007.
Right?
Yeah, the Heidenhummel, the yellow
Recording
yeah, the recording. So I released it, and then so it was only 3 weeks later the Nobel opening concert was. So it was just like, and I was traveling, and they were like, okay, so they wanted to come and do the opening, and they've written some new fanfare thing you have to play. So it was terrifying, but of course, very like fun. I mean, so you know, the day before I was at this press conference, I was sitting next to Alicia Keys, and I was like, Uma Thurman was there, and yeah, Kevin Spacey was there, and there's like, you know, it was just this kind of yeah, a lot of like celebrities that I'd only seen on TV.
Yeah.
Kylie Minogue was there. We never saw her, but she was there as well.
Yeah.
I think she just, you know, disappeared into her own, like, I don't know where she went. But yeah, no, it was great. And actually Earth, Wind and Fire was there. And that was like, I was probably just so inside my own head that so I basically spoke to the Earth, Wind and Fire, but I had no idea that was what I did. So of course now it's like, oh my God, I was just standing there when talking to them because they were like, "Ooh, you play amazing." It was just like, you know, there was so much going on that I just now later realized that, oh my God, it was Earth, Wind and Fire. I was there talking to the brass,
Yeah.
you know, players, and yeah, I was like, oh my God, maybe they remember me. I don't know. That would be amazing. No, but I remember it as a huge thing, and luckily no one told me until after. So basically it's just a couple of minutes, you know, in the very beginning, but it's a huge thing. And luckily no one told me how many people were actually watching until afterwards.
Which were how many?
It was, I don't know, they said it was like 300 million people or whatever. But I can't kind of imagine that it was, but maybe it was a lot of people anyway.
Yeah.
That's a lot of people.
Right now you have 18 watching.
That's not too bad. Hello.
um,
I'm very happy with that too.
oh yeah, there'll be a lot more watching later, I'm sure. And some really fine players too watching. I see Rashawn Ross is on here from Dave Matthews Band and Melvin Jones, a great.
That's nice.
So I'm sure they're
Cool.
listening intently. And I wanted to ask you too, also, not as a happy occasion, but what you did for the 2011 Norway Attacks and that circumstance and how you played with that. And if you could kind of give a little context on that, because I think a lot of people watching in the States might not remember that as well, because we have so many tragedies here. So it's hard to keep
I know.
up.
It's horrible. That's, you know, that's a tragedy in itself. You know, it was, yeah, in 2011 we had this horrible terror attack that is very it never happens here. So it was very, I mean, I remember I was in Liverpool at the time. That day, this was 22nd of July 2011. I was recording with the Liverpool Philharmonic for the Storyteller album.
Right.
We were finished on the 21st, and on the 22nd I had a rehearsal for this. I was going to play on the 23rd. We're going to do this kind of huge concert on the docks, like outside in the harbor, like 40,000 people, whatever, like this party kind of thing that the orchestra had. So we just had rehearsals, and I saw that my mom had called me so many times, and I was like, what is this? She didn't have my schedule, but she knew that I was, you know, probably working. Why is she calling?
Yeah.
And she called, and she said because then so the first thing that happened, that it was a bomb at the government building, outside the government building. So that was the first thing that happened. And since it's in the middle of the summer, it was like holiday for them. But I mean, it was a bomb in the middle of the center of Oslo. And when I came back to the hotel, I turned on the TV and I was like, what is this? You know, like CNN and Sky and BBC and had like these photos from my hometown, you know, with like, it was absolutely bizarre. And then of course everyone was then talking about this must be, you know, as they normally go to the conclusion that it is you know, a terrorist something that is not from Norway. But then, so what happened afterwards was that and this happened later, was that so the guy that did the bombing, he also took a boat to this island where a lot of young, like there's a youth camp for the Labour Party.
Yeah.
Here in Norway. So he went there dressed as a police officer, and he shot I think it's 77, as far as I remember, kids from like 13 to, yeah. and tried to shoot more. And yeah, so it was like this. It was just absolutely, yeah. Just and of course now this year, and it was 10 years ago, so it was a huge kind of big deal here, of course, this year, and a lot of documentaries, a lot of interviews, a lot of horrible stuff from parents, and getting texts from your kid, while they were hiding out, and then they never got a reply, and then it's like absolutely like this shouldn't happen anywhere, and at least in Norway that was just like it never happens in peaceful Norway. So anyway, so then when I came back, they had this kind of impromptu thing in the middle of the center in Oslo. They wanted to do like not like a parade, that sounds so happy, but like a gathering of people going with roses. Like they wanted to do a march kind of thing, because the rose is the symbol of the Labour Party. But then what happened was that, so when they asked me if I could play, I was on the square. This was 3 days after I just got home, and then I did this. Very impromptu. We didn't have sound check, anything. And then, so basically, we are 600,000 people living in Oslo, and 300,000 were out in the streets. So people were not moving, but they were like everywhere. And and then I started playing. So this is one of these occasions that you just have to forget. This is not about me at all, kind of. So I did this Vita Lux, this song that it's a Norwegian song, starts all solo, and then the piano comes in. And I started playing, and then everyone, immediately, it's a very nice melody when I started playing. Everyone, took their rose up and held it up. And I was like, oh my God, wow. I just, close your eyes, think of something, you're not here, you can cry afterwards, you're not, this is not, because crying and playing the trumpet is not a good combination. So it's so that was very, of course, absolutely, yeah. And then the year after, I did a concert on the 1-year celebration, which is maybe the one you're referring to, where I'm on the roof of the city hall.
Yeah,
that's the year after. And then I also did some other ceremonies, but then I was standing on the top of opening the concert with standing on the roof of the city hall, and then playing with the radio orchestra who was down there in horrible weather. There was so much wind, so I didn't have to, I just opened my mouth and there was air. I didn't have to take a breath. It was just, but then so of course very special to be, it's a very different thing to do, or it's a very different thing to being asked to do. It feels it's an honor to be asked in that occasion, kind of, not just because I'm a good musician or something, but because they really wanted me to play there. That's very special. Yeah.
I wanted to ask you too, and we'll get to Tine Thing in a minute, but going back to the travels that you do, can you maybe give some people some ideas of some things you've learned about being healthy mentally and physically on the road, like things that took you time to figure out as far as practicing? Or I know you don't like practice mutes, like most of us hate them, especially as you get older, you just don't care. But but things like that are good ideas for, because I know there are some people who will watch this that do a lot of traveling in normal times.
Sure. It's traveling is I've done so much traveling. I've done so much traveling alone. It's a very it's an absolute privilege to be able to be a trumpet soloist. Very few people get to do that. So grateful, but it's most of the time it's not very glamorous. Yes, I get to wear very nice dresses, on stage. It's not very glamorous. I do meet a lot of wonderful people that I get to play with, and people that I get to know different places around the world, and also a lot of fans or students, and really great meetings for me as well, like to talk to. But it's very lonely.
Yeah.
It's very lonely also. So it's all about getting some kind of routine into a life that's not a routine at all. Because for a long time, for many years, I was much more away than I was home. So in a sense, you can kind of say that I didn't have the feeling of a home, which is always on the road, which can be fun, and which can be like you're alive, and it's stuff like that. But it's also very like there's not much calm and quiet in that. So I do think that one like very important thing to remember, that I didn't remember so well until I had to, is to take time off and to think about the balance in what you do, and remember that it's tiring to perform, and it's tiring to travel, and it's okay to think so. Kind of, it's like you have to remember that that it's we need our restitution. One thing is physically, but also the head, and we need to do other stuff than just focus on this all the time.
Right.
There's so much more to life than trumpet playing or music. So it's just trying to find that balance, trying to have different things. Remember to stay in touch with your friends and family. We're very fortunate now with FaceTime and all of those things, like just try to just make it into some kind of every day.
Yeah.
Even though, because that's what it is, kind of. So now I'm more at home, and I have to. That's the way that I am happy and healthy. And so it's a perfect amount of working and perfect amount of living, kind of. So it's important to remember those, like, so when I'm at home, I'm at home. Well, I do stuff here as well, of course I do, but I'm like, and then when I travel, it's full on, because then I'm not at home, so I don't have any free time when I'm traveling, because I'm somewhere, and okay, rehearsal is over still, it's 3 p.m. What should I do today? But that's not the same as having time off, because I'm not home, so it's not time off, it's you're still somewhere else.
Right.
In a different bed, in a different environment, in a different country, in a different, or at least a different town, or So I think the balance thing is very important. And just practice in the hotel room. My God, don't wear mute. The thing is that if you practice in like not too early and not too late, just, think like in normal times, at least think, okay, so will there be anyone in the hotel room between 12 and 4? Most likely not.
Right.
At least not between 12 and 2 or 11 and 2. Like, people, the ones that live there, they will be in meetings, and they will be, so just play. And then maybe you will get a call, or maybe someone will knock your door and be like, what is this? But then you will face it. And then I think maybe all of the cases where that's happened, which is not many, they just give you a room. The hotel.
Rashawn Ross asked where your entourage was when you travel.
Oh, I wished I had an entourage. Well, now I try to travel. So my husband can, if it works with his schedule, or if he has some time off and stuff, then he travels with me, especially when going on long trips outside of Europe. And then now and again I have a friend with me.
Does he wear sunglasses like a bodyguard, and just to make you feel like that?
Not really. But he is very good at I've had a couple of times where he's actually, with those after I perform. So if I have some signing sessions or something, afterwards, and sometimes I feel so bad because there are many, so many people there and a lot of students, a lot of young people, and they're like, which is so bizarre for me, but amazing. Like, I play the trumpet because of you, and I'm like, oh my god, this, yeah. But it's, and then I want to talk to them for a long time, but I can't because there are so many other people there,
Yeah.
and someone traveled for like so many hours to go to this concert, and then I, which it's fantastic. And yeah, and then I would like to talk to them, but I can't. But then Sebastian steps in, and some of the most eager fans that I felt bad for not talking to, he continues
Oh, well,
to
that's
talk
nice.
to them. Yeah,
That's
so
very,
he kind of
yeah,
represents me.
that's very good. Well, and
Yeah,
I think you just touched on this. There are a lot of young people that do play the trumpet because of you, so
yeah, it's absolutely insane. Yeah,
yeah.
I'm just me, but at the same time I am aware, of course I am. I mean, but it's still so bizarre. Yeah, but amazing. I mean, yeah.
So I had one other question, sort of, and this is nothing to do with anything we've talked about, but I thought it was an interesting question because of the programming that you do on your recordings and in your concerts. If you had a time machine, who would you ask to write a piece for you?
Oh my god. Well, I would think who would like, well, Beethoven is an obvious answer.
Mhm.
Um but maybe more like maybe Brahms, or then I would go more like Tchaikovsky or Dvorak, or I don't know, stuff like that. So like some of the like Beethoven is one thing, but then the later like romantics, the
Yeah,
repertoire that we have nothing.
like
We
a
have nothing from that period.
yeah,
So and I see no, I mean, there's so much great music. There's so many great trumpeted cornet parts in a lot of the music. I basically think that the reason there is not that much solo repertoire is because trumpet wasn't a solo instrument, and there wasn't a player that was a soloist or that had that. Not that there necessarily wasn't someone that was good enough, not at all, but it wasn't a thing, because you see that the composers they wrote for different, the violin concertos are written for a certain violinist.
right.
So it's yeah, no, but yeah, but so some of the kind of like grand romantic masters, that would be nice.
Yeah, yeah. Um, so back to Tine Thing. Can you talk about how that started? That's such a for people that don't know this ensemble, which they should. Just Tine Thing on YouTube, you'll see these great videos, and you guys sound amazing, and the
Thank you.
the choreography. It's different than Manazil Brass.
Yes, I mean they are incredible, but they have a different. That's a completely different thing. Yeah.
And way more beer, I'm gonna guess.
Yes, and very like a lot of humor, like, and then the why that, I mean, that would only work. I love them.
Yeah,
They're amazing,
absolutely.
and that's also because they're great players, and then it works with all the fun humor
Yes.
like stuff that they do. Then that works because they're so good. But Tine Thing, yes. So basically, it started as a fun project in school, because me and some of my fellow trumpet students were just talking together. It was a concert in school, a Christmas concert. The string ensemble was playing, and we were like, we also want to play that music. They did some Vivaldi and some Grieg, and they did some stuff, and we're like, oh, we want to do that too. And they said, oh, maybe we should just, start an ensemble, do a project. Yeah, so yeah, why not? That could be cool. And then since we were only girls, the four of us, then we were like, yeah, let's just do girls, like an all girl ensemble. Sure. And there are a lot of great female brass players. Well, there are a lot of great brass players in Norway, but it wasn't hard to find good. We just invited some more friends, and we did the project that summer. So that was in yeah, basically our first concert was on my 20th birthday, so 2007. Yeah. And I was the leader from the beginning. And then it kind of just continued.
Yeah.
And it, yeah, we did some projects here and there, and then we started traveling abroad. Then, my management, international management, we did some tours, and yeah, and it's just we're still doing. I mean, now we haven't played together since 2019, because basically, so we're a project, very much a project orchestra group, not an orchestra, project group. So the other girls, they have like their normal jobs, in orchestras or teaching, or or freelance or different. And then of course I have my normal schedule, and then we try to do 1 or 2 tours a year,
Right.
internationally. Yeah, so it feels a bit like that. That we just something we started for fun, and then most of us are still, the same as the original members.
Yeah,
so that's also quite cool. Yeah.
Do you guys wreck hotel rooms like rock bands, or is it
Not at all?
pretty boring?
It's very, it's very, it's very, very. It can be on tour very professional on stage, of course. I think it's we also, we have to play well. That's of course the main thing. We want to have fun, and engage with the audience. But of course it's great with 10 girls on tour. They get time off from their partners and kids, and we travel and we have a great time.
Yeah. It's a fantastic group. If people haven't checked it out, they really, really need to. And hopefully you'll be doing a US tour.
We are next Christmas.
Next Christmas?
Yeah.
Christmas of 21 or
22.
22. Okay.
So not this Christmas, but next year's Christmas.
Very good.
Yeah.
Very good.
We were supposed to do this Christmas, but it got as everything else. 2020 just kind of never happened. And then now everything is.
Yeah.
So hopefully, fingers crossed, but the plan is to have a tenting tour in December 2022.
Excellent. And where are your tours the rest of this year? Where are you off to?
Mine or?
Yeah, yours.
So basically, this year, it's just a couple of still, the abroad thing is still a bit
up in the air, right?
Up in the air, but I have a couple of dates abroad. That will most likely happen. Mm-hmm. And now, with the vaccines and everything, then it's starting to get a bit easier. But I have a lot here in Norway. But then so when I come to the spring, then I feel like it's business as usual, kind of. Then I go to the States a couple of times. I go to Dallas to do a premiere of a new concerto that I do together with the violinist Karen Gomeo. We have a double concerto for trumpet and violin.
Very nice.
With the Dallas Symphony. And I do some recitals and stuff. I don't remember where. Sorry.
We'll look it up.
Yeah. So then it's normal in Asia and New Zealand, and I don't know what. Everything is now just kind of, this is where it's happened. So then it's, business as usual.
Yeah.
Hopefully. Yeah.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
I guess the last question I have for you is, and you might have already answered this part of it already. What if maybe there are more examples of this, but what are some concerts where you have thought, wow, I can't believe I'm doing this? I mean,
yeah,
maybe in a profound way, and then maybe something comical that's happened, because I'm sure we've all had those experiences.
Well, I did actually. I'm just thinking of it now because I think these things are very hard. I have had a lot of comical things, but actually what comes to mind now is because we talked about tenting and we talked about the US. And I remember this one tour in the US with tenting, and we had a concert. I mean, this is more like what happens in a concert. We had a concert, and then just like I was just talking in between 2 pieces, and then suddenly there was a mobile phone ringing. which happens, and that's fine. I was just like, ooh, let's see who it is. I was just, it was a very nice atmosphere, so it was just kind of fun. But then this guy, he answers the phone, and I'm like, okay. And he just kind of, stands up, talks in the phone, like he's on like third row or something.
Yeah.
Yes, hello. Yeah, I know. Oh yeah, no, I'm gonna come over. But he was like, and then was just like walking, and he was going out. But while he was talking in the phone, I was just like, waiting. And then he went off stage, and then of course everyone was like laughing and woo, and yeah. But there's so much more things like this, of course, that has happened. But that was one thing that I just suddenly remembered.
Yeah.
Funny things that can happen during performance. But I mean, it's very hard, because there are many times I've been thinking, am I doing this?
Yeah.
But sometimes you can't think, you think it afterwards.
Right.
As well. So it's very hard. It can be everything from like, like the people would, the things that people would like you would think is like that, like Carnegie Hall or Albert Hall or Musikverein in Vienna, or those kind of big places. Is of course, seeing your poster outside of Carnegie Hall is always, incredibly special. So that's kind of course, that's a special day. It's not a day like everyone else. It's a very stressful day, but a very fun day when it's over. No, it's also fun when you're on stage, but it's very stressful before. No, but it's those kind of normal things. But then it's like suddenly you're playing in strange places, like on top of some mountains, or you're playing in a very like small church somewhere, with like 10 people in the audience, and then that suddenly is one of those most special things you've done. So it's like it can take you by surprise, which also makes my job fun.
Yeah.
And yeah they're different things. Yeah.
Well, I know that you've been you're such an inspiration to everybody, and I hear so many people talk about. I mean, I on purpose I didn't ask questions about being a female brass player, because I think you're just.
Well, I am, so it's it's just a fact.
That's just how it happened. It was
This is what it happened. Yeah.
But I do know that I hear a lot of my colleagues mention that that's inspiring to see the things you do, and the command that you have, and the audience that you have is terrific. And I'm glad you're only 34, because there's years and years left.
Well, but I mean, on the whole aspect of being a female trumpeter and stuff, I do think that that especially in some countries, it's not normal at all to be a female playing in brass instruments. Some, or at least it's not something that they think of as a. Yeah, it's just not that normal to see. So in that sense, I feel like, and I mean, all the time basically, that if the fact that I am a girl and have blonde hair and wear a nice dress, if that maybe makes someone remember, like having a, how do you say, not necessarily remember me better, but like having like an, oh, that's also like possible, then hooray. But then it's all about how I play anyway, so this was much more a thing that I was thinking about, and that I got asked a lot in the beginning of my career,
right?
And it's always, and this is not just for me, but all female soloists, singers, instrumentalists, it's almost always at least one sentence in the review about how you look, and it will never be like that with the men. Yeah. So what you wear, or like it's always something like this. But at the end of the day, I like to dress up. So this is me, no makeup, no everything at home. But then of course when I go on stage, I like to, it's my outfit. It's my not it's like, this is, then I'm Tine Thing Helseth, then I'm on stage, and that's part of the thing. But I do think kids, it's important that they see both girls and boys that you can do whatever you want, no matter your gender, kind of, like, yeah, no matter.
Yeah, it just doesn't matter. It's just a great trumpet sound.
Yeah, and also you can be a nurse if you're a boy. And yeah, it's just the whole thing there, because a lot of people say, "Oh, you're very inspiring to young girls," and I say that's amazing. But hopefully, I'm also inspiring to young boys
You're
that they can
fine.
see that,
Yes.
or that they can see that it's, that a girl, because for kids, they don't care,
Right. Right. Exactly. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But
So
you're inspiring to everybody, and it's just been a pleasure.
thank you.
And thank you for doing this. And
Of course, my pleasure.
I'm thankful for everybody watching. And Tina, if you'll just hang on a second after I get us off the live feed. But
Sure.
thanks everybody for watching. And I'm sure, Tina, you'll see the replies and the comments that have been written.
I'll go in and check. Yeah.
Very good. Thanks.
Thank you.
And
Thank you.
everybody for watching.